marketing is hard, right? Like it's hard and extremely time consuming. So time consuming, in fact, that I'm going to encourage you to spend more time on it. Okay, I kid, I kid. Marketing does not have to be hard. It does not have to be hard at all. It is sometimes, but it does not have to be hard. What's really important though is that you're being really smart. And so, what I'm going to encourage you to spend some time on isn't necessarily marketing, but branding. If you can spend some more time with your brand, then maybe we can all have better life outcomes. There are so many businesses I hear about that I'm like, man, I would love that. I don't know how to reach them. They have not managed to make themselves into my world yet, which means that they're not going to get my money. And so what I want us to all do is actually just get better at this whole game so that whenever someone has the idea of, oh, that would serve me, that then you can get their money for doing the thing that they need help with. That is very important to me. So let us get to it. Okay. So what are the things and why should you spend more time working on your small business marketing? Why is that a thing I'm even pretending to tell you to do? It's because more often than not, we really are doing our business day to day. We're in the weeds. We are in the business. We are doing the thing. We are servicing the customer. And because we're servicing the customer, we're doing our technical thing. We're making the bread. We're making the soap. We're making the videos for someone else's YouTube channel. We're doing all of these things. And as a function of the doing, we are not necessarily staying in line with our customers. So over time, what you might experience is that all of the doing that you're doing, you're in your business, you're in the technical aspects of it. And as you're in it, as you're growing, as you're learning, as you're developing your business, you are slowly moving away from your customer, right? So your brand is over here, your customer over here. And that doesn't mean that you need to chuck your brand or chuck your customer. But what it really means is that we need to spend some concerted effort making sure that these things are aligned. We need to make sure that we're concerting our effort on drawing our brand over to where our customer is so that our brand is always in line with our customer. The more we can keep that alignment action going, the better. But if we are busy doing whatever the thing is you do, if you're busy doing that, then all too often we get to the point where our customer, again, has just floated off in a different direction. And we really need to take some time to pull ourselves back in the direction of our customer. As I said, pull ourselves back in the direction of our customer. And that is very much what I mean. I do not mean to pull your customer to you, because this is not the game we're playing. This is not about you. This is about them. And so making sure that we are pulling ourselves back towards our customer, it's something that we need to be doing on a very regular basis. And it doesn't have to take a lot of time, but if you're doing it on a regular basis is when it doesn't take a lot of time. If you're not doing it on a regular basis, that if you're not doing this weekly, monthly, some sort of, quarterly, if you're not doing this regularly, then you will have to take a whole lot more time to do it later. I think it was Zig Ziglar. I love Zig Ziglar, y'all. I am so corny. Just in case you didn't know, I am like a corny motivational speaker, Les Brown, Zig Ziglar kind of person. And one of my favorite Zig Ziglar statements is about if you take care of your health daily, then you won't be forced to take the time to take care of it later. So if you do a little bit of work now to stay in line with your customer, you won't be forced to take a lot of time later to get in line with your customer. And that is very much how small business branding works. If you are, as a small business owner, staying in contact, staying connected, staying aligned with your customer on a regular basis and doing that regularly, thoughtfully, then you won't have to be forced to take the time to reevaluate your entire brand once every 5 years, once every 2 or 3 years. You won't have to go through an entire reevaluation and rebrand to realign with your customer. You will be able to just slowly make those incremental changes that will put you on the path to staying in line with your customer all the time. And by the way, less expensive to do that than it is to go through a massive rebrand all the time, like every few years. Okay. Like stay in line so that you don't have to get in line. It's not the way it works. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. That is what I'm saying here. So stay ready, stay on purpose, stay aligned with your customer all the time. It takes a little bit of time now, but if you do it, it will help your brand overall. Okay. Adjusting your story. So the next part of this is to adjust your story to be in alignment with your customer story. So this is very much, again, staying in line, staying on brand. So making sure that you're moving with your customer wherever they're going, whatever direction they're moving in, move with them, but also make sure that you're keeping your story for your business in line with what the customer story is and what their motivations are. So if your customers' motivations are changing, then you may want to adjust the way that you communicate your story and all those things to what your customers' changes are. I'll give you an example. If you are a person who is starting out selling products and services to people who are potty training children, one of the things that happens as a function of you selling that product is that, well, kids get potty trained. And so hopefully if you're selling a product where people are being potty trained, that is a solution that you are making happen in the real world. Now, yes, there will be more and more children coming along to go through your potty training, but two very important things are happening as this entire potty training business is going. So as your potty training business is going, your customers are aging out, meaning that your customer that is in this moment is growing up. They're both the parent and the kid. They're growing up and they're no longer becoming your customer. And simultaneously, people who were not your customer before are growing up into becoming your customer. So people who did not have kids before are having kids, and then those kids are becoming the age of potty training, and then they're becoming your customer. Now, the reason why this is a really good example of what I mean by adjusting your story to fit your customer is that, as we know, the shift or change between, let's say, millennials, which I am the eldest millennial, maybe the oldest one on the planet. But anyway, I am an elder millennial, and I know from experience that this Gen Z, I tell you, we are very different. Us elder millennials are very Gen X-y. Like, we're super Gen X-y. Like, we're so similar to Gen Xers, it's hard to tell the difference between us sometimes. But the Zennials, like the Gen Zs, we're nothing like those people. Like, goodness gracious, they are completely different from us. And so if you are a person who's doing potty training for people who are new parents, first of all, people are becoming new parents at a variety of different ages. So that's its own thing. But in addition to that, if you are switching from you having millennials be your parent group to now having Zennials or Gen Z be your parent group, you are going to have to make some changes to how you communicate your story, because the way that Zennials communicate and navigate the world is very different from how millennials navigate the world. Okay. And because of that, the change that you need to make is going to be in your story, how you're communicating that value. That's going to have to change. What you do is not changing. You're still potty training, but the way that you're communicating that is going to change because your customer is changing. So all of those things need to work with you. So if you're going to be a brand that, again, is moving and developing over time, you're going to need to make sure that your brand story is aligning with the customer as they are changing, as your customer group is changing. Now, all of us not everyone has a clear generational line that they're going to cross with their businesses. Some of us are not going to have that at all, but others of us will. But just because you don't have the generational change doesn't mean that your customers aren't changing. Like, your customers may be changing as technology is changing. Your customers may be changing as whatever you do, as the market for whatever you do changes. So we have to make sure that our story is in alignment with whatever changes are happening with our customers at any given point in time. Now, next, we need to evaluate how your customer is experiencing the value of what you offer. So not only do we need to adjust our story, but we need to be thinking, like, how is the value that we are offering being experienced by customers over time? If we can look through a critical lens at what the customer is getting from us, what's the transformation they're getting, and not how do we see it, but how do they see it? Evaluating that over time is going to help us solidify our brand so much, but it needs to be consistently evaluated. Mostly because what value you're offering, again, changes with your customer. Example of the potty training thing. What the value is that a Gen Xer gets out of a potty trained child versus a millennial out of a potty trained child versus a Gen Z out of a potty trained child, you can imagine the value that they all get is different. It's not just potty training because they are all different parenting styles. So Gen X is, I need this kid to be potty trained so that I can leave it alone. Like, that was, goodness gracious, boomers are like, I need the older kid to potty train the youngest kid so that I can leave them all alone. Like, the Gen X is, they're free range parents. So they want their kids to be potty trained basically so they can free range parent. You can't free range parent somebody who's wearing a diaper. And millennials are like totally in competition with each other. And so we're like, I need my kid potty trained so that I can say it was potty trained before that person's kid. Like, there's all of these crazy little rules that we have set up for ourselves. And so just those two differences are massive. Like, the value that I get out of it is going to be different from someone who's in Gen X. And like, my sister's a Gen Xer, and it's so funny because we experience the same things all the time and we get such different values out of them because we're different generations. We have different personalities. She's 7.5 years older than me. It's a very different thing. And so it's just very important that if you're running a small business, that you're constantly looking at your customers and going, wait, what's the value you're getting out of this? And then communicating that back to them. So it's always about what is the value that they're getting and then communicating that value to them. So you may start out communicating the value of free time, and then you may end up communicating the value of swiftness, like speed at which this happens. The same thing, that the same result is happening. It's always potty training. The kid is always just getting potty trained, but what you're getting, the value that the person is getting out of it is very different. Very much, very important. You just want to be thinking about how to make sure you're aligning the value with what your customer actually gets out of it. And if you're thinking about that on a regular basis, you're evaluating that on a regular basis, it's going to make your business brand that much stronger and that much more resilient to market changes and all that sort of thing. Now, lastly, you need to be determining where you sit in a marketplace. All of this talk about where the customer is and what the customer is doing and how the customer is adjusting, how they're perceiving your value, those are all really important markers. You need to be, as a small business owner, as a brand, as someone who's developing your brand, you need to be aware of those things on a regular basis. Your customer needs to be your focus, but you also need to be conscious of the environment you're sitting in. So your customer is your focus, but you need to be aware of your competitive surroundings. So where is your brand position? When you're selling potty training, again, doesn't mean you're going to stop selling potty training, but where does potty training sit in the grand scheme of childcare, like of child rearing? It may change. So where you are and what you're offering as someone who offers potty training at various points in your term as a small business owner in your brand, you may experience that the thing that you're offering, you might need to change the name of it because the market has moved. Right? Not just because the customer has changed, but because the entire space of child rearing is changing. And so if our collective, like the entire United States or world, decides that it's going to change what child rearing looks like, the term potty training may not be the term to use anymore. It may be something else. It doesn't mean that you're not potty training. Again, the thing that you do might be exactly the same, but how you're positioning what you do may switch. Or maybe you are going to focus on one aspect of potty training because what you're realizing is that as the Gen Z comes in and you're moving more in the direction of what they want, you're aligning your story with them, there's maybe a portion of what you're offering that doesn't make sense for that market anymore. It doesn't make sense in their world. And so you might eliminate certain things and then have to rebrand what your offering is. So you may still be offering potty training, but just one or two elements of a 5 or 6 step thing that you used to do. And so what we have to do constantly is be looking out for that opportunity, essentially, because that's really what it is, the opportunity to know what's going on in the marketplace, to know what's going on in our environments, in our surroundings, so that we can have a really good idea of what people want, and not just what our market, like our customers want, but what the entire market looks like. What does the broader market look like? And how do we fit into that broader market? Those things are going to be extremely important when it comes to making sure that your business is actually aligned and that you are really making really good branding decisions. And these things take a little bit of time. So each of the things that I mentioned is something that is going to take time. It's going to take a little bit of energy. But once you do it and you get yourself to the point where you are regularly aligning yourself with your customer, regularly adjusting your story to stay in alignment with your customer story, regularly evaluating your customer's experience with the value that you're offering, and then regularly looking around and determining where you are in your market, then you will consistently and always be on brand. Your brand will stay on brand. You will be on brand and stay on brand because, again, it's better to stay ready than it is to have to get ready. So if you stay on brand, then you don't have to do massive rebrandings and massive adjustments. You can be making incremental changes as your business is moving along. And as the owner, as the small business owner, the person who is in charge, that's part of our job. It's not just to be the person potty training. That's nice. What we need to be doing is to make sure that we're always making our business run the way that our business needs to run. And so we should be spending just a little bit more time developing those elements so that they can always be completely on point. Now that you have thought through these core concepts, I am going to challenge you to take this one step further. We have a small business brand audit that really helps you to walk through your small business and determine where you are right now. It helps you identify your customer's perspective and help you position your brand based on your competitive evaluations. It also helps you to align yourself through mapping your customers' motivations. And all of these things can actually help you to determine, again, where your small business fits on the path to actually being a brand. This self-guided brand audit is completely free and available to you at the link that is going to be somewhere. How links are, they move. I don't know where it's going to be, but it's going to be somewhere very near. And you will have the opportunity to download this audit and take it yourself. It is in the format of a PDF download. So once you actually download it, it is available to you to use whenever you see fit. It consists of 8 videos as well as 14 pages of workbook that allow you to work through some instructional activities to actually help you to move yourself more in alignment with your brand, move your small business into alignment with your brand, and actually help you make that transition from kind of small business owner into a brand, which is, of course, what we are all aiming to do. When you're trying to learn and grow, that is always the aim, is to get ourselves to the point where we are not just a small business owner, but we are the owners of a brand. I encourage you to go ahead and download that small business brand audit. It is completely free. Click the link to get yourself started, and I will see you on the inside of the brand audit.